Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Investing Show. My name is Stephen Earp, and I am with the great Taylor Davis. We are both co-hosts on the show, and just really honored to be chatting with you. And it's been a few weeks since we've done an episode. I was traveling, and then Taylor, you were traveling, and so. But I miss your face.
My places were a little less exotic. Tell me about you had two countries, right?
I did. Yeah, we were gone about 16 days. I was in northern Nigeria for 5 or 6 days, and then I was in India. So did some pretty cool stuff, and it was more like mission and work focused. For those of you who don't know, or I don't know if you know this, Taylor, that I run a nonprofit called Finding God Online, and so we work with different groups in different countries who are spreading positive faith-based messages in hard places where there are lots of needs. And so I do a lot of travel connected to that. And so I do real estate for money, and I do Finding God Online for passion and love, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gotta have both. I went to a real estate conference in Anaheim.
How was it?
It was great. Yeah. This is the 7th time I think I've gone to this conference.
Was this for agents, or was this for?
This is agent focused. Yep.
Okay.
Agent focused, and so I go every year to this. It's a really large conference, usually I think between 10 and 15,000 people.
Wow.
So it's pretty large. But it was really good. Every time I walk away from there, a lot of the times when you're going to these classes and breakouts, you're hearing from literally the best from around the world.
Yeah.
Sharing stuff, and they're oftentimes speaking about their very specific thing, and so it's a lot like drinking out of a fire hydrant. You just you just hold on and grab what you can. And so when I go to these, I usually try to come away with 2 or 3 things that I'm going to come back and implement. And then I come back with a bunch of momentum, and so it's always good. So
that's awesome. So when you go to this, is this a Keller Williams event?
It is.
Okay. Yeah. And when you go to this event or events like this, is this the kind of thing where you bring your whole team, or is this the kind of thing where it's just mainly for visionary leaders?
No, I mean, I have taken my entire team before. Susie, who's my lead listing agent, we've gone together now for, I think, 5 or 6 times. Okay. So I think the first one I went, maybe the second without her. And then we always go together. One year we took the whole team when it was in Dallas, admin and everybody. It's more geared toward, I think agents walk away with the most, where admin, they can find value, absolutely, but it's more agent focused. So
right, gotcha. Cool. Well, very good. Well, so what are we going to talk about today?
Well, let's talk. I mean, we talk about what do you have and how do you use it to invest in real estate? Because I think we've got a pretty broad audience, and if you're a pharmacist or a doctor or a lawyer, you don't have a lot of time, but you probably have some money to invest. And so we can talk about how to do that. And then if you're getting started, or, you're working the 9 to 5 and you're looking for your way out of that grind, you may have time, but you don't have a lot of money. So let's use what you got.
Yeah, that sounds good. So let's, how do we want to start? So let's talk about someone who has higher income, or maybe a higher net worth, very busy, successful, like you mentioned, maybe a good paying W-2 job, or a good paying self-employed business or something like that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time to invest in real estate. What would you do? So let's say I make multiple 6 figures on my W-2.
Right.
I have decent net worth. I have some borrowing capacity, but I don't have a lot of time. So if I come to you, Taylor Davis, and say, how would you help me in that? How would you help me as you being an investor? How would you help me as an agent?
Yeah. So you've mentioned this before. One of the first things is don't quit your W-2 job, right? I think a lot of people kind of let that go too early. Right. And that is your borrowing power. So keep that as long as you can.
Right.
Once you let that go, your ability to borrow gets either very complicated or or you are not able to borrow.
Right.
So that's step one. So if you have time, you're trading it for money. If you've got money, trade it for time, right? And so that's leverage. And so you're going to leverage other people to do the work for you. That could be a property manager. That could be a wholesaler to find deals for you. That could be a realtor to find deals for you. But you want to get your team. A great book that I love that talks about this, is great for somebody who has money and not a lot of time, is the long distance real estate investing
by David Green.
By David Green.
I love that book.
It's a great book with a lot of practical advice, and you don't have to do all of that advice works locally as well as in long distance. So if you're, the book is how to leverage basically as an investor, because if you're doing long distance real estate investing, you're not there, you're not doing anything. You have to leverage all of it out. And so it's a really good book for someone like that. You've read it. What were some of your biggest takeaways from that book?
I agree with you, first of all, on the book. And the reason is, it's not just so the book is about long distance real estate investing. That's the title, but really what it is about, you accurately said, was it's really about how to get stuff done without you being directly involved.
Right.
And so the author, David Green, he's a host of the Bigger Pockets podcast now, and he was a police officer and was buying and investing in rental properties long distance. So he would make phone calls and send text messages, between calls, when he was a police officer. He was working 12 to 16-hour days a lot of times. So my takeaway, there were two major takeaways. One is that you definitely can systematize everything and outsource everything. Two is he has a kind of like a four-legged stool of a team that he wants to find. And so he recommends, and I'm going off the top of my head here, but if memory serves me, it's first finding a good investor-friendly agent. Yeah. So finding an investor-friendly agent, you're going to need to find good property managers that are involved there. You're going to have to find a good contractor. And there was one more area.
Those were the three that I remember too.
Yeah, it seems like there were four, but basically he was like, if you find a good
lender.
The lender. Yep. Find a good lending source. So those are the four. And he's like, and he lays the whole thing out. So in that book, it gives details on, here's how you can buy houses sight unseen. Here's how you can evaluate them. Here's how you can decide on basically who your Avenger team is of your Fearless Four. And so his recommendation is to find an investor-friendly real estate agent first, and then network to find others. And the reason is because rock stars know other rock stars.
That's 100% right. So yeah, you want to go, the path of least resistance is to find your connector, right? The person that's going to connect you to all of the other people that you need to know. And a good realtor-friendly or investor-friendly realtor is going to have a property manager that they know, that they trust, is going to have contractors that they know and trust, is going to have lenders. And so if you're able to find that investor-friendly realtor, you're able to build your team. Now, you may have to go through several realtors to find that first one that's going to make the most sense. We've got a person who's bought, I think, 10 houses with our team over the last 2 years. And he is out of New Jersey. He read this book. He's actually a Keller Williams agent as well out of New Jersey. And he called in like 3 different markets and interviewed different realtors over the phone. And in each market interviewed like 2 or 3, ended up working with our team, but we connected him with a property manager. He's now doing his own property management. We connected him with a contractor who he's used for years. And so you can build that team. And that's the thing, is you've got to have that leverage. So you need your deal finder, and that could be your realtor or a wholesaler. And you need your property manager so that you're not the one changing a toilet that's leaking. And then you want a good finance person, because you want to be able to leverage your money as well on the back end.
And also contractors for when you're doing your initial construction work and things like that. And usually they, your your agents will have usually good recommendations on that, or your property manager. So probably you find your agent first, and then find a property manager, and then find contractors and things like that. So, but yeah, that's I think that's a really good model for if you have a good W-2 income, you have a good decent net worth, you want to invest in real estate, but you don't have lots of time. That's a really good way to do it, and you can grow like that. Some other ways you can invest in real estate if you have a good W-2 income and decent net worth, would be to passively invest in the deals of other people. So like you and I do deals that people could invest in as a limited partner, they're in the deal. It's like larger commercial properties or multifamily, things like that. And so that's another possibility for someone who has a good net worth, or disposable income, or savings that they need to put to work and things like that. So that's another possibility, is passively investing with some investors who are really active.
And can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you hear me yell at my dog?
No. Did you?
Okay. I muted it. I was like, oh, good. Because he was starting to bark in the background. Sorry.
I hope you were really kind to your dog, bro.
Oh, well, it was more of like encouraging him not to bark.
Yeah. Do you remember when we first started doing this? And
oh yeah.
He
had a yapper in the background.
We had just gotten a dog, and I guess it wasn't when we first started doing it, but man, he would be quiet, and then just when we start recording, he would start going crazy.
I think somebody just walked by, because he doesn't bark a lot unless somebody walks by, but somebody had to walk.
Yeah. And so he doesn't do that anymore. I think we slowed him down. But
so to your point, a limited partner in a bigger deal is probably the most passive way to invest in real estate.
I would think so.
If you want the opportunity for returns that real estate can give you with the convenience of like a stock market type purchase, that is the way to go. Because even with David Green's style of building a team, you are still managing that team. You are still in contact with that realtor. Right. You are still evaluating the deal. You are still in contact with the property manager. You're still making decisions. When you're the LP in a limited partner in a big deal, you get an update and you put your money in. You have a day that you're going to get your money back, and that can be structured annually or over the course of 5 years. And you're going to put your money in, and you're going to get money back. And so it's a really easy way, truly passive way, to kind of have more mailbox money without doing anything, because you're still going to be doing a little bit, even when you build a team. No matter how good that team is, you still have decisions to make, whether to buy that house or not. Where when you're an LP, you're leaving all of the decisions to a general partner who has already put that team together, has experience, and understands what they're doing, and is going to give you a return on your investment. So that's a great way to do it.
Yep, I love that. So let's go on to another type of person. Let's say that I guess so we talked about if you have money or capacity, but not time, then you can invest either using like David Green's long distance investor method, or being a passive investor in bigger deals. What about if you're like, okay, I don't have money, or I don't have a lot of money, or I don't have enough money. So let's say
grind and you got time.
Yeah, let's say that I come in and I say, and I think that's important to note. To make money, you're either going to have money, or you're going to have energy. You're going to have to use creativity. Like, you can't make something out of nothing. No. You have to have some kind of resources. You got to have some ingredients to make the cake with. Okay. So, you can do it with if you have money or borrowing capacity, or you can do it by just grinding and spending time. So if I come to you and I'm 20 years old, and I have less than a few $100s to my name, and I'm like, hey man, I really want to invest in real estate. What would you say to me?
You have to become a value to one of the people that have what you don't have. So you don't have money or the borrowability. You have to be the solution to their problem, which is they don't have time, right? Yeah. So that means most likely you've got to be the deal finder, because none of this works without an opportunity that is going to show a return, right? So you got to have the deal.
Right.
And so a lot of people who don't have time or don't have money, they start out as deal finders. That could be a wholesaler. You could partner with someone who has money, and then it's less of a wholesale, more of a partnership. That's a lot how you and I started is, you know,
Right.
I had time and energy, and we started together on that. That said, you've got to provide that value. So as a deal finder, how are you going to find deals? Well, you've got time, but you don't have money. So, I mean, bandit signs are fairly cheap, and you can do that. Letters or door knocking's free, right? You don't have to have anything for a door knocking. And so we do driving, or we've done driving for dollars in the past, which is a great way as you're driving through neighborhoods that you like and kind of know. You look for the abandoned ones, write a note, tape it on the door.
Right.
You can use all sorts of free resources. People freak out is probably the wrong word, but people freak out all the time about how I got their contact information. I'm like, it's 2023. You're out there. Like, Steven, I can find you online, somehow. So if you found a property that you want, you can find that owner and reach out to them in a variety of ways, unless they are in, a remote area of somewhere. You can find them they're on social media. They have a phone number. They have an email address. So, how have you found deals as a person that didn't have money to do it, but you could find the deal?
Well, first of all, I do think times are different now. So I do think it is harder to find off-market deals. No, let me say that. Let me back up. I do think more people are working to find off-market deals now.
I'd agree with that.
And so because of that, there are more ways to find them, but then there are more ways to find them. So more people do it. So then, you're probably competing with more people. So I've done everything you mentioned. I've done bandit signs in the past. I've done knocking on doors. I've done driving through neighborhoods and finding a house that looks abandoned, broken windows, things like that. I've done that. I've gotten lists of fire houses from cities. I've pulled lists of code violations. Some cities you can pull code violations. I used to look up probates, and when properties would go to probate in the surrounding counties where I live, contacting the heirs, like grandma passed away and they don't want to fix her house up. They just want to sell it. I have networked with attorneys, probate attorneys. In order to do that, you need to have a little more. You need to have someone on your team that can pull the trigger with cash. It's hard to network with probate attorneys if you go in saying, I have nothing, and I've never done this before, but please let me put a contract in with house. I mean,
because they're giving a referral to their client, then that reflects on them.
Yeah. So these are just off the top of my head. I've done tons of mailers. I've run ads on social media.
Let's deep dive real quick. What do you put on your bandit sign?
We buy houses and then a phone number.
Boom. Easy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think there are a lot of creative ones like Joe buys houses and things like that. I think that's completely unnecessary. Why? Well, because the phrase we buy houses is kind of a brand. Everyone knows what that means. Like, we buy houses, here's the phone number. And then you put those, signs out. And I think I haven't done that in a number of years, but I'm 100% sure that it would still work because people still drive down the road and people still see them and people still need to sell their homes.
And if I remember right, I'm pretty sure I learned this one from you. You have driven by, seen a house that you wanted to buy and literally put a bandit sign in their yard and then waited for them to call you. And if they were upset that happened, you just turned it around to, I couldn't get a hold of you. And
yeah, I've done that a lot, actually, especially in the early days, especially when I was trying to break into specific neighborhoods. I would drive through neighborhoods and find houses that looked vacant, and I would put a sign in their yard that would say, we buy houses. Or I would put a sign in their yard that would say, handyman special for sale, and my phone number. And then someone shows up and they're like, what the heck? Why'd you put a for sale sign in front of my yard? Oh, I was just trying to get a hold of you, And so,
I gotta ask, You've got to have some stories on how those phone calls went, because I'm sure some of them worked out, but there had to be some fun ones in there.
Well, okay. So true story. So I've done more of like handyman special, house for sale by owner, and putting my phone number on it. Okay. And then put that in the yards of houses that are vacant or broken down. And two things happen. Number one, I built huge lists of investors that wanted to buy properties.
Okay.
And they would call, they're like, hey, I saw this house for sale on Hazelwood Drive. Can you tell me more about it? I'm like, well, that house is not available at this point, but I do have this other one 3 blocks away that you might want to look at.
Okay.
And so I would get maybe 10 calls like that for every one time I would have an owner respond. And most of the time they were friendly. I would just be honest. And I would say, when they would call, they would say, and normally their first statement was not very friendly. It was usually like, why the blank are you putting a sign in my yard? And I was like, oh yeah, are you the one that's over on this neighborhood? And they're like, no, I'm over here. Oh yeah, that one. Okay. So listen, I was trying to get a hold of you. Are you interested in selling that house? I'm really interested in buying houses in that area. And I thought if I put a sign in your yard, that would be guaranteed you would call me back. So thank you so much for calling me. And most of the time they would just laugh. I would just be honest. I would say, I was trying to get a hold of you, and I figured that would be easier than sending you a letter, because everyone sends letters. And then
that's amazing. Okay.
So I got good responses that way.
That's
but
awesome.
you have to have the personality where it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, in other words, you have to be emotionally 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Like if they're going to say something mean to you, and then you have to curl up in the fetal position in the corner,
that's not going to work for you.
Maybe you shouldn't use that strategy.
Right. And yeah, 100%. And one of the things, kind of mindset around that, because I used to call for sell by owners all the time, and the last person a for sell by owner wants to talk to is a
realtor. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so I got a lot of FUs and hang up and that sort of stuff. And but one of the things, and at first, and I tend to be a little bit of a disconnect. I can disconnect from someone, and that and I have that wall up. But after a while, it started to do what?
How do you mean? Like, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, like I can be guarded and be like, you're not going to hurt me with your words, kind of thing. But after a while, it starts to it would wear on me.
Yeah.
And then I had this mind shift of like, I could literally bump into this guy at Walmart and never know, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't know me. I don't know him. This isn't personal. Mm-hmm. This is him venting about other frustrations, and he's venting at me. Like, but it has nothing to do with me, and it's not personal. Anyway, okay, deep dive. Yeah. You've sent letters.
Yeah.
What do your letters say?
I've tried everything on letters, first of all. For a long time, yellow letters were a big deal. When they first started, we did a lot of those. And yellow letters are like, hi, my name is Steven. My wife and I want to buy your house at, 1123 Sunrise Drive. We can pay all cash and close quickly. Please call me. So we used to send out lots of those. We've sent out postcards. I've sent out flyers that will say, we buy houses, any condition, any area, and is it in probate? Does it need a lot of work? Does it have dead cats? Does it have, whatever? We'll buy it. Do you have a problem house? Things like that. So I've literally tried everything. What I find to work the best is the more personal you can be, the better. So meaning, if you're using bandit signs, I would not put your name on them. Okay. Mm-hmm. There are lots of issues with that, but when doing letters and things, if I was doing it now, I would put my face and my name, and I would tell about me and my family and things like that. And so because there are so many out of state wholesale companies and people trying to do virtual wholesaling and things like that, that I think it's damaging to the real estate markets locally. And if people know that you're local, I think that there's more value in that. So
okay,
I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I would do. And I would just here's the thing with mailers. This is my perspective. I could be wrong, but I'm not in doubt. Okay. I believe that the time of BSing people is over. Like we are in the post information age. Like we were in the information age for 10 or 15 years. Now we're like beyond that. And authenticity is what is needed. Like just tell people who you are, what you do, why you're trying to do it. Be honest and find the right people you're looking for.
Right.
That's what I think. So in other words, I think if you want to start doing letters, just start keeping some of the letters that come to the home you live in now.
Yeah.
Or call your grandma and grandpa, or call your mom and dad or friends and say, hey, do you get letters from real estate investors? They want to buy your house. We buy ugly houses, or we buy houses, or whatever. They're going to say yes. And then ask them, can you keep those for me for the next month? Go pick them all up, look at them, and you put them all together, and you call that a swipe file. And then you start reading through them and start learning about it. Start learning about copywriting. Start learning about how to phrase a sentence. And when you're reading them, have a couple of other people read them and say, hey, tell me which of these sounds like a slimy salesman that just wants to take advantage of you. Okay, which of these sound authentic? Ask this question. Out of these 27 mailers, can you tell me which one you would be most likely to call on, to respond to? So like, look at that and then develop your own thing. It's not that hard if you just put a little thought into it. Okay. And so that's the kind of thing that I would recommend, is developing your own swipe file, making it highly personal. And then, and I think that's my early days of marketing were in the guerrilla marketing franchise, which started by J. Conrad Levinson. And which
was the yellow letter, right? I mean, that was a very guerrilla market tactic. All right. So this is how we've done it. I ripped this off of you and we did it together at one point, but I mean, it would be it's an invitation size envelope, handwritten with a sticker stamp, not a mass post stamp. Then you open it up. It'd literally be one of those like yellow legal pages, and written on it in red ink was, my wife and I are interested in buying your home at 123 Main Street. Please give me a call, phone number, and sent. And that open rate is going to be
super high,
close to 100%, because it looks like an invitation.
If it's hand addressed and you use a first class stamp, even a commemorative stamp, and we would test different envelopes and things like that. We
would intentionally put the stamp upside down. It looked
more personal,
less professional, and more like somebody just did that.
Yeah, and here's the thing to keep in mind. It's important to think about marketing. Like think about, here's how to think about marketing.
Think about your goal.
Yeah.
And then ask how to get there.
Yeah.
Like we think of marketing as this fancy brand.
Right.
No. Like that. Well, that's because that's their goal. Apple's goal is to have this image.
Right.
I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, that's good. So it's important to think about, let's talk about how to think about marketing. Marketing, it's basically just, how do you get someone's attention?
Right.
Like it's getting the right message in front of the right person on the right medium at the right time. That's really it. So think about it this way. Think about it like, initially when some innovative idea comes up and it will start working. Well, then it starts working, and then other marketers will see that it starts working, and they will start doing that. So yellow letters has been a big deal for a long time now. I don't see that many now because it's kind of run its course. And now, so initially when people are sending yellow letters, they definitely get opened. But then when you see, and most of them don't look like they're handwritten, they're printed.
Yeah.
And so then you just throw them away. And so what happens is some marketing strategy will work, but you innovate, you find some way that'll work, then you duplicate it, and then other people see that it works, and marketers will exploit it by doing it over and over and over. And I think it was Seth Godin that wrote a book that said marketers ruin everything. So something works, and then it doesn't work because it works so well that it no longer works. Then you have to think about the next way to do it.
Right.
So my encouragement would be, number one, make it more and more personal. Number two, always be looking for the next thing in marketing strategies. Number three, whatever everyone is talking about doing, I encourage you to start going the opposite direction. When we're very high touch, or when we're very, very high tech, I encourage you to go high touch instead.
Right.
So if you wanted to find deals in a market like this today, my encouragement would be go get a list of people who just went into foreclosure, go knock on their doors, meet them face to face, handwrite a note, tape it to their door. My name is Steven, and go talk to them. And so that is what I would recommend. And the reason is because everybody's running Facebook ads, so if you're like, no, I have to get a deal, I don't have any money, fine. Go
knock on the door.
Yep. Go knock on the door and talk to them. And you're like, well, they didn't answer the door. Okay. Go on Facebook and find their name.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. Find their name. Send them a friend request.
Adam is a friend.
Yeah.
Send them a message. Hey, you don't know me from Adam. I want this house. Do I have the right person? Are you interested in selling? Sorry if you're not. My wife and I are interested in buying this property.
And the harder they are to find, the better a deal you can get.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, if everyone's sending them letters and everyone's knocking, and everyone's calling them and they're having people from Pakistan make phone calls to them, and then you go knock on their door and you're like, hey, my name's Steven. I live in the next neighborhood and I just wondered, I'm looking to buy a house in this neighborhood, and would you be interested in selling?
Yeah.
And do not mention that you found their name on a list of foreclosures first.
Right. I agree with that.
But so yeah, that's. Maybe can we go down a slightly different road?
Sure.
Okay, so I wanted to add something. So when we talked about, if you have W-2 income, if you have net worth, and how you can invest. And we talked about if you have nothing, what can you do? And most of what we've talked about is go find deals for someone. But I want to also mention a couple other things related to that. If I was 20 years old and I had less than $1,000 to my name, I would do two things. I would, number one, go make friends with as many significant investors in your area as possible. And number two, I would find a way to make a living in that industry. Maybe that means someone's investing in multifamily apartments in your area, and you find a way that says, I want to work for you. I want to learn from you. What can I do? Or maybe that means you're going to start a construction company. You're going to get really, really good at putting in flooring, for example, or you're going to get really, really good at painting. And by doing that, you can make good money as a service provider, and you can network with a lot of investors. So you start a construction company, you're remodeling bathrooms only for investors, right, or you're redoing countertops or kitchens only for investors, or you're doing flooring only for investors. You become the best, the best luxury vinyl plank installer in the area, best price, best everything. And you network that way. So find ways you can be around it all the time. And yeah.
Your network is your net worth. Yes. I mean, the more people you know that are where you want to be, the more likely you are to get there.
Yes.
And so I 100% agree with that.
There's always a way to get involved. I
would say that like look for deal. Like if you can afford a house, buy a house intentionally that's going to be in your portfolio. It's going to be a rental for you. That'd be the other thing. If you can't get a loan, you have you don't qualify for a loan, you don't make enough. Then look for, like you did, look for opportunities like owner finance or subject twos. You can work your way into these opportunities, and it may not be this home run of a deal, but it's financed for you. And it works, and it'll cash flow eventually, and it gets your foot in the door and gets you started where you're actually holding property. That'd be the other thing. Real quick, I wanted to throw out two things that if you're sending letters, I think people oftentimes they get this I don't know what to send. And you gave a great advice on how to think, and I think that that's more important. And those handwritten notes, I think they still have the personal touch, and they don't need to necessarily be on a yellow letter or whatever. You write it on a pencil, or you write it with a pen, and you just go, hey, my wife and I, or, I'm interested in buying your house at please give me a call. Love to chat. And you send that and do it in a handwritten envelope so it gets open. The other thing that you did on your postcards that I freaking loved, and I don't know if this would work anymore. Your postcards were literally the most boring postcards I've ever seen. They were white with black, like New Roman times font.
I know.
And they said, we buy houses, any condition area. But what I loved and what worked, and it was crazy to me, is at the bottom, you said, keep this postcard with your important files. And if you ever need to sell your home, call me. I was dumbfounded how like 2 or 3 years later, somebody kept that in their important files and called you 2 or 3 years later. That to me was just like one of those, you've got to be kidding me. I can't believe that worked.
Yeah. Bro, I here's what I think. If someone were to ask me, and this is what I've thought with business, I've started a number of businesses. I know you have as well, invested in real estate, I've been involved in ministry for a long time. Like if someone were to say, how do you make sure that you can be effective or successful at something? Here's my thing. I think what I would consider to be compression, like what it is like you can take a year to do this much activity, or you can do this much activity tomorrow.
Right.
So just get out the learning curve. It's all about the activity. And that's why a postcard like that, and you're like, this postcard sucks so bad. How did it work? Well, the reason that it sucks so bad is because I wanted to start today and not wait till it's perfect tomorrow.
Right.
And the second reason it sucks so bad is because I was just trying to do everything I could in any avenue to get better. And then over time, maybe it got better, maybe it didn't.
And I want to go on the record and say it didn't suck, because I don't know how many of those high design, flashy color cards were thrown in the trash. Yeah. But your little black and white mini postcard got a call. And I think so, to your point, I think so often we think as marketing as this big fancy whatever, and we want, but it's not. It's what is the goal? Get to the goal. I love that you did the compression thing. By the way, a great book kind of on that is the 12-week year. And it talks about basically condensing your year into 12 weeks and looking at it from that perspective, as opposed to through annual planning, going to 12-week planning. So
no, that's good, man. Honestly, I think right now, if someone wanted to do really well in a neighborhood, I think door hangers that are taped to the door. In other words, take the blue tape, the painter's tape that doesn't stick, it doesn't leave a residue. Find your neighborhood and get some flyers of any kind, whatever kind it is, whatever the flyer looks like. It doesn't matter how nice it is. Go through the neighborhood and tape it to the middle of the door, so when they walk up, they see it right there. Boom. It's not hanging on the doorknob. You're not putting it in the door like the pizza things, but it's literally taped to the door. I think that would be money right now. Like, I don't see anybody doing that. And we used to do that with some other businesses we're involved in, and we always got a huge return. It takes
Would you make that a designed thing, or would it be a handwritten?
I would design it. I would print it very cheaply. Maybe one colored piece of paper. But the key is maybe a half sheet of paper, and take that blue painter's tape and stick it to the front door. And I used to do that with some other businesses, and I always got a really good response. And the reason is it's right there. Like
they're gonna see it.
Yeah, they're gonna see it. Even if they pull up in the driveway, they still see it on the door. They walk around and they see it on the door. So that's something. There's just a bonus. Like, I think that idea could be money right now. And if I had lots of energy and very little money, that's the way I can try to make some money. So anyway,
love it.
Hope that's helpful, guys.
Absolutely. This is great.
I love you and appreciate you, Taylor, man. I love doing this with you. So thanks for your investing expertise. And I look forward to buying the house from you as soon as possible. So
see you next week, if not before.
Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, and share.
Comment and share.
Let your friends know. Send us your questions about real estate. Thanks, guys.